Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our Plugged In webinar series. And thank you for attending today's Questline Digital webinar, Educating Customers About Rate Plans. My name is Maureen Murky, and I'm the technical producer and host of today's webinar. At Questline Digital, we're focused on bringing value to energy providers by improving the customer experience and achieving program goals. Before we begin, we want to cover just a few housekeeping items with you. First, we love an engaged audience. If you have any questions during the webcast, we encourage you to submit them through the Q&A section, which is located at the lower right of the presentation window. Don't be shy, our presenters love questions. We'll try to answer all questions during the webcast, but if a more in-depth answer is needed or we run out of time, we'll connect with you via email with an answer. We also have the attendee chat open. Please feel free to use this function to chat with other attendees about what's standing out to you from the presentation, to ask questions, or to network. To get started, go ahead and drop in the chat where you're tuning in from. I am live from Columbus, Ohio. We will also be conducting poll questions throughout the presentation, and we hope you'll join the fun and participate. These polls will help all of us discover valuable insights and key takeaways on today's topic. To view the poll results, simply access the Polls tab to the left of your screen. Habla usted español? Parlez-vous français? English not your native language? That's okay. Check out our closed captioning feature for more options. We have 12 languages available. Next, we want to ensure that your webinar experience is as seamless as possible. Since some networks may cause slides to advance more slowly than others, we recommend logging off of your VPN. If your slides do fall behind, simply press F5 to refresh the page. If you're a Mac user, use Command R. It's that easy. Finally, look for a follow-up email in your inbox this week. You'll receive the PowerPoint presentation and a playback link to the webinar recording. And now, let me introduce our presenters for today. With over 11 years of experience, Elizabeth Van Horn is an accomplished professional in the digital marketing industry. As a valued member of the Questline Digital team, she has consistently demonstrated exceptional expertise in various aspects of digital marketing strategy and execution for utilities. Throughout her career, Elizabeth has developed a reputation for her ability to create and implement comprehensive digital marketing campaigns that align with client objectives and surpass expectations. She excels in developing and executing multi-channel strategies across both print and digital mediums. In Elizabeth's free time, she enjoys cooking, watching her favorite NFL team, the Buffalo Bills, and spending time with her husband, 2 dogs, Chopper and Dexter, and cat, Harriet. Lamont Hinson is a Communications and Community Relations Associate at Fayetteville Public Works Commission. He is a native of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and a graduate of Fayetteville State University, as well as an alumnus of Barry University with a master's in Business Administration and Sport Management. Lamont joined PWC in August of 2017 and has contributed to the CCR department as an event coordinator, communicator, and an award-winning project manager. Before I pass it off to Elizabeth to get us started, I'd like to begin today's discussion with a poll question. I'll go ahead and launch that out for you now. The question is, how many of your customers are currently enrolled in alternative rate plans? Is it 0 to 25%, 25% to 50%, 50% to 75%, or you guessed it, 75% to 100%? Go ahead and choose what percentage your customers fall into for how many are currently enrolled in our alternative rate plans. It's great to see all those numbers coming in, and I'm sure that Elizabeth and Lamont are going to share some helpful tips today to increase those numbers. And with that, I will pass it off to Elizabeth.
Thanks, Maureen, and thanks everyone for being here today. It's really great to have you all tuning in on our discussion to talk about energy rates. I'd like to kick things off by taking a step back. We've seen a growing number of rate plan options in the last few years, thanks to capabilities of advanced meter infrastructure and increasing needs to manage demand. This has resulted in so many different types of energy rate plans. There's fixed rates, variable rates, stable rates, flat rates, and time of use plans, and more. We all know that we need to find ways to make the grid more resilient and greener while helping customers take control of their energy use. So what's the point of me telling you all this? It's because I want to drive home the rate plans are very confusing for customers. We know why this is important, but customers don't, and they certainly don't understand how all these varied plans work. That's where we all come in. It's our job to make things less confusing. So let's dive into this a little bit. There are things that customers already know and things they don't know about energy rate plans. Data from SECC's survey on rate design tells us that nearly half of our residential customers don't know what type of rate plan they have. Let that sink in just for a minute. 50% of residential customers just don't know what type of plan they're paying for. Further data goes to tell us that 64% of these customers are most aware of flat rate plans, with 36% being aware of time of use rate plans. For business customers, 76% were most likely to be aware of flat rate plans and 52% aware of time of use plans. 3/4 of business customers even prefer alternative rate plans compared to standard plans. For business customers, those most interested in alternative rates are larger organizations, smaller individual locations, owner-occupied businesses, and those businesses with higher energy bills. Another staggering fact. The EIA reports that 63% of U.S. customers have a time of use rate plan available to them, but only 7.3% are actually enrolled. That's crazy. So there are clearly some missed opportunities right in front of us. Most customers aren't enrolled in a time of use plan, even if they have one available to them. And business customers want alternative rate plans, but don't know about them. So awareness and education are lacking amongst both of these groups. Let's not stop there though. Data shows that 50% of Gen Xers, millennials, low income, multifamily home customers are unaware of rate options available to them, which means there's really a good opportunity to directly promote with these subsets as well. Okay, we have a better understanding of what customers know and don't know now. So to answer the question a lot of us are probably asking, do customers even want alternative rate plans? The answer from the data is a very clear yes. While more than half of our residential customers are interested in an alternative rate plan, business customers overwhelmingly prefer alternative rate plans. So knowing that customers want these plans, it's important to understand the factors that are influencing customers' decisions to enroll. Some of these influencers could be the opportunity to save money, because who doesn't want to save money? Environmental impacts, and taking control of one's own energy use. So let's get into this now. Knowing these influences on customers and knowing that they want alternative rate plans, how do we increase enrollment? Well, there's a few strategies we can put into place. First, we need to educate, and educate. Customers don't know what they don't know. They've been paying for electricity for the same way for over 140 years. Even though customers are aware that alternative rate plans exist, don't assume that they know how their rates work or how monthly bills would be affected. A foundation of basic education is needed in order for customers to make informed decisions. You also want to explain the why and the what of rate plans without using complicated industry jargon. For example, why is energy more expensive in the afternoon? From the customer's perspective, it's always been the same no matter what time of day it is. Providing a rate calculator is a great tactic to consider when educating customers because it lets them see exactly what their bills would look like if they switch plans or change their behavior. Next, answer their questions up front. Think about what customers want to know and have answers ready for them before they even ask. Some of those questions might be like, what rate plans does my utility offer? How do I know which plan is best for me? How do you save money on these plans? Customers have a lot of questions, and we have the answers, so we need to be upfront and give them that information they need to make the best decisions for themselves and for their families. Remember those demographics I talked about earlier? Well, it's important to keep those in mind and segment your communications to really reach specific customers with messaging that resonates with them and their lifestyles. Especially consider communicating to potential early adopters first. Those customers that are already using energy in the right way, but maybe they don't know about their rate plan options. Next, promoting the benefits of rate plans should always be at the top of your to-do list. Customers care about why they should be making the switch, so we need to tell them. Talk about environmental benefits, how it will make the grid more resilient, and give them more control of their energy use. You want to remember to not use industry jargon when talking about these things. Put it into layman's terms for them. One strategy that I love is showing customers how much they could save and personalizing the information to them. Shadow billing is one way that you could do this, which is like creating a mock-up of a bill that shows customers their costs and energy usage if they were to switch to, let's just say, a time of use plan. Instead of talking about the savings, You're showing them, and it's really impactful for customers to make the right decisions for them. And last, incentives. It's okay to admit that we all like free things. So it's okay to lean into this while trying to drive to enrollments. Offer prepaid gift cards, or what I've seen our utility clients do that's been wildly successful is offering bill credit options for those that enroll. Overall, just remember that you need to make customers aware. You need to educate them and provide them with easy and accessible ways to enroll. Something like a one-click page or a QR code and a direct mail would be awesome ways to do that. And just to touch on briefly, remember that education needs to happen in as many channels and platforms as possible. Customers like to learn in different ways, so we need to make sure we're offering education in the ways that customers prefer. Whether it's direct mail, email, social media, make sure you're using different channels to your advantage and meeting your customers really where they are. And the last thing I'll touch on before Lamont walks us through his success stories with Fayetteville is that communications shouldn't end after a customer enrolls. Your work is definitely not done. You want to make sure that customers understand the new rate plan, that they're benefiting from it, that you're there for them if they have any questions, and that you're their trusted energy advisor. So use the opportunities you have to send them real-time feedback. We recommend starting with an onboarding campaign, a series of nurture emails over the first month that educates customers about the new rate and includes usage information. So an alert might say, hey, you're doing great. Look at how much you've saved since switching to the new plan. Or if costs are going up, provide tips on adjusting their behaviors to take advantage of their new rate. For example, do they have their thermostat programmed to correspond within the new rate's time periods? Following this onboarding period, continue with regular communications with a monthly newsletter that's segmented for customers on each rate plan. You can include seasonal tips and advice to make sure they understand the plan and continue to benefit throughout the year. Your customers will appreciate knowing that you're still there for them, walking them through these plans even after they've made the switch. And with that, I think I'll pass it to Maureen for another poll question before we hear from Lamont. Take it away, Maureen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Tons of helpful advice and strategies right there. Before we jump into the case study with Lamont, let's do another poll question. I'll launch that question out now for you, and we are asking, what challenges do you have communicating new rate plan information? Is it reaching the right audience, explaining the complexities of plans, incentivizing people to switch, promoting the benefits of rate plans, or post-enrollment communications? Go ahead and choose all that apply to you. And I really just want to learn what challenges you're all experiencing, and hopefully things that Elizabeth has already shared helps you in your communication strategies. And I know that Lamont's experience is going to give some great insight to you all as well. Quick reminder that you can send in questions at any point in time in the Q&A widget that's on your screen. And I think it's always just great to know that you're not alone in the challenges you face. So with that, I'll just go ahead and pass it off to Lamont to hear more about PWC Fayetteville.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lamont Hinson. I'm an associate in communications and community relations at Fayetteville PWC. In terms of us educating our customers on rate plans, there are two examples. One where there was a mandatory rate structure change, and then one where we're introducing optional electoral rates. I'll start with the mandatory rate change. We introduced time of use rates in May of 2019. And what that was is us better aligning our rates with the costs and charges we incur by buying electricity from Duke Energy. And with the implementation of AMI meters, that was an opportunity for us to better gauge the usage of our customers during peak and non-peak times. With the introduction of TOU rates, what was done is there were two distinct seasons, a summer season and a winter. So from April until October, that was the summertime. The peak 4 hours that you wanted to avoid were 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then from November until March, which was the winter peak time, you wanted to avoid 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And why avoid it? Well, during those peak times, we were paying 30% more than the normal rate charge from Duke, which means those costs were eventually going to be passed down in our rates. So this was an opportunity for us to kind of educate our customers on how we pay for energy, as well as their usage. Some more background on the TO use rates. So it was implemented by our board in March of 2018. That's important because the rollout was in May of 2019. So that means we had roughly a year to get this information out to our customers. And we began immediately, understanding that the June bills of 2019 were going to reflect this and that things were going to start in May of 2019. We started immediately with our early education, trying to correspond it with the summer coming up. So you would see billboards saying next summer, time of use on the way, things to get customers engaged and asking questions. Now, how did we communicate? Well, we immediately sent out a rate notification, letting our customer know this rate had been adopted and what was on the way. We also used our newsletters to our customers, as well as an electronic version called an e-blast that we sent out to customers that have an email address. We utilized social media and community events to get the information out ahead of time. So we started that summer, different posts, any events that we had lined up. We had brochures, handouts, visual displays, and we were prepared to answer questions. We also host a monthly television program, PWC Connections. We will utilize that platform to get different segments out, to utilize our employees to talk about it more, and to just let the customers know that it's on the way, as well as monthly advertisements in our print, billboard, and radio communications. Now, as mentioned, with those communication efforts, we had a handout that we produced, something that they could tangibly touch. We utilized our website so that they could have a hub or a trusted source that they could go to get more information if they had come up with questions later. Of course, you use video. This is the day and age where everything needs a video to go along with it. Hence, we're on video. And we produced one with our CEO to let people know that this was an executive decision being supported from the top down, as well as producing an animated video, just so it had a different spin to it, same message. But as mentioned earlier, you need different ways to communicate with your audience. We also produced a magnet. That's what's seen in the bottom right corner. This is something that we were hoping would stay on people's refrigerator for years and years to come and be a good reminder that those 4 peak hours that you want to avoid. And along with our communication, we wanted to emphasize that, yes, there are 4 hours that you want to avoid, but there's 20 hours of the day where it's off-peak time. And not only those 20 hours of the day, but also the weekends. So we were only doing this Monday through Friday of having a peak time, as well as any holidays that were recognized by PWC. Those were also seen as off-peak hours. So it's kind of pointing out the positive instead of dwelling on those 4 hours that we were trying to get people to shift their consumption. Now, we didn't want to stay behind a desk or at a keyboard sending out our messages or just sending out mailers. We knew we had to be boots to the ground. So with the events that we lined up in the community, we used those outreach efforts to also educate, take on questions, and get information. So if there's a senior day, we know we're going to have an older audience, a lot of our customers. Same thing for our PWC Expo, which is something that we roll out to display all our departments, as well as allow our employees to get out in the community and be seen. We took advantage of those opportunities. And just as I mentioned about our television show, we also have partnerships with a lot of local radio affiliates. So we host a monthly radio show. It's an hour long on We Do. We were having guests to come up and talk about time of use. We would take segments and constantly remind them, even if the main topic wasn't about conservation, we would bring it back to time of use just to constantly keep it out there. And even on our other platforms where we have a smaller appearance, maybe only a 15-minute or a 30-minute appearance, we were still constantly putting out the message of time of use. We didn't just stay with our partnerships. We engaged different speaker bureaus, going to community watches, different churches. We were also inviting ourselves or trying to see if any of our customers could get us plugged in with apartment complexes or HOAs. And at the bottom, you'll see something that says CAG assistance. Now, our CAG, that stands for our Community Advisory Group. They're a small collection of our customers that we interview and we elect them to a board of such. We call them a group. It's about 20 to 25 customers. And what we do is use them as our sounding board. Whenever there are new ideas or concepts that are going to be rolled out, we bring it to them first to get their feedback, to get their suggestion on if there are some things that maybe we should adjust, if there are some ways that perhaps the customer would understand it a little more clearer. They're a big help for a lot of our ideas and concepts that we're introducing, and we definitely utilize them for the implementation of time of use. I'm glad this was mentioned earlier, and one of the resources that we provided to support this effort was an online energy calculator. This was something that was used to let our customers know how much they could potentially save by shifting their consumption during these off-peak peak times. And it was introduced ahead of the actual time of use billing, so they could go there to our website. It was hosted on our website and get the opportunity to kind of play around with the numbers and see if it's even worth it. Because even though this rate change was going to be mandatory, some customers may feel like, I don't need to shift what I do. I'm going to do things the same old way, and however I get billed, I get billed. But this was a way for them to actually see it. We also made changes to our web portal. We have a online account manager, which allows our customers to go in, pay their bill, manage their usage, or see how much usage they may have had for that month. We made changes that reflected this new time of use change. We implemented incentive programs. We had a thermostat program as well as an electric water heater program that we offered to customers that offered a bill credit for them switching and making the change to that type of device. We also made changes, a second change to our web portal that reflected the rate comparison. And we did a whole new bill design that showed the difference with the time of use coming about. And we constantly kept communications as well with our customer newsletter and e-blast, letting them know where they could go for more information or for additional resources, and with our conservation calendar. So we already produced a conservation calendar that talked about upcoming events, different ways to conserve, but we adjusted it. One of the adjustments we made with on each month having a reminder of what month it would be in terms of the time of use scale. And it would have a graph that within the clock, the green area and the red area of off-peak, on-peak times. Also offering reminders month to month on suggestions they could do to shift their consumption, whether it be washing clothes at a different time, washing dishes at a different time, preparing meals at a different time, just constantly keeping information out there. So this year, we did something where we are introducing an optional elective rate. And with this rate, you have an opportunity to pay a higher basic facility charge. And by doing so, you can save 40 to 47% on your rate. And by doing so, you can do it for a longer time. This is kind of targeted to customers who may be electric vehicle owners or night owls. They like to do a lot of their energy consumption at night. This rate kind of targets to them. And then towards the tail end of this list, you see the renewable energy buyback as well as the buy all sell all. Those refer to our rooftop solar programs, giving information for those who are constantly asking, can I save if I put solar panels on my roof? We already offered a community solar program, which was something that people could subscribe into. And you didn't have to have solar panels on your roof, or if you stayed in an apartment, we have a solar field. You can subscribe in that way. Well, this is for those residential or business owners who are getting those solar panels and they want to see, can they save on their bill? Now, with the whole home rate, with the adoption or inflection of EV owners, we felt it necessary to offer something. So as mentioned, there's a super off-peak time. So from 9 p.m. until 5 a.m., and this is every day, customers who opt into this rate have the opportunity to save 40 to 47% on their rate. Now, you can also opt out at any time. And again, you're going to pay a higher basic facility charge. So you have to weigh out if this is something that's worth it to you. And on our end, how do we know what customers that this may benefit? Well, with our communications, we work with a company called BlastPoint Analytics. They help you identify customers based on their routines or different habits that they may have as to how this may fit. So those customers who may have a propensity to use their EVs more, we had direct communications with them. We also use some of our own analytics outside of working with BlastPoint. We communicated with local EV car clubs as well as dealerships. And we did utilize some of our routine platforms like social media and email and targeted e-blast newsletters. We got to stay trying to use as many concepts and platforms as possible because you never know what could reach. The difference with the mandatory versus the elective, we use more targeted communications. So for our business EV owners, there's a small power and a medium power. It's based on the amount of KW that is produced in your area or at your location. We use our marketing and development teams to kind of help us identify those customers, which ones would benefit most from this opportunity. And again, we use targeted communications. Now, with our rooftop solar program, this is something where you're constantly trying to explain to the customer what it is, what's the difference. There is a renewable energy buyback. We also have a buy all, sell all. So with the renewable energy, you have the purchase of one additional meter. So your basic facility charge is going to reflect that of an additional meter. Any energy that is generated through your solar panels can be used towards your bill in a monthly credit. However, it cannot exceed what your bill is. And unfortunately, it does not roll over any excess. Anything that goes back to the grid, it just goes back to the grid. It does not credit forward. So this is also something based on how much energy is produced. This is typically for those who are producing 10 kW or less. But again, we work with our development and marketing teams to best identify which customers this would benefit. With the buy all, sell all, again, it's trying to educate that with this one, you are going to have 2 meters. This is for customers who are more than likely producing over 10 kW. However, whatever energy is generated, it can again be reflected as a credit on their bill. Any excess, however, does roll over for future bill credits. So you are getting all of the energy, so to speak. One of the drawbacks is that you will have to have the purchase of 2 AMI meters. So your basic facility charge will be slightly higher. Again, it is working with our development and marketing team to see which customers this will best benefit. We really call them our key accounts, our small and medium power customers of that nature. In terms of communicating, we want to, again, have a stable information source. So we utilize our website. That is the trusted way these days, having a trusted website. So we want to make the information as user-friendly as possible, as available as possible. We try to do a lot of FAQs and think ahead of the game. Again, that's using our CAG to try to answer the questions that we think customers may have. And if we get others, when being out at outreach events, we take them into consideration and try to get an answer for them, because we know if that customer has that question, there could be other customers that have that question. Now, how do you know if it's working? We try to examine our results in a couple different ways. Now, with the optional, that is examining the actual signups. As of right now, again, this was introduced this year with our renewable energy buyback rider. There are 20 that are already signed up. With the buy all, sell all, there are 38 customers already signed up, and there are 125 customers on a waiting or pending list right now. So it's taking those initial numbers and seeing how you can grow on them, seeing how much room there is to grow, and the potential, how many other customers could potentially even fit in that area. In addition to looking at the number of signups, so time of use, when it was initially introduced, we were offering customers a 30% lower rate by shifting their consumption off peak. This was 2019. Well, in 2021, things had gone so well with time of use. We had been able to reduce our costs so much with Duke and renegotiate our contract. We could pass on those savings to our customers. Time of use has since shifted and now offers a 35% lower rate during those off-peak times. So that's definitely something to examine as a successful result, that customers actually did make some of the changes, allowing us to save, which allows them to save. Also, engagement at our community events, hearing the actual feedback. We try to have an event every month. Sometimes we have 2 events within the month, and we get a lot of feedback being a utility company. Some of it's not good, but the majority is, and we hold on to both. We like to hold on to those positive comments, and we listen to those who may not be so positive and see how we can make it positive. We also review our results before we send out a communication, and of course trying to look at the results after the communication to see if it made a difference. We also have a customer satisfaction survey that we send out to our customers, and those results kind of help us gauge whether or not we're making a shift. For us, in order to really see if we've hit our goal, you want to know if your customers have actually received the education, they understand it. When they're out amongst their friends or family, they can explain. That kind of lets you know that they get it. Again, that public engagement, you can't stay locked up in the office and really think that you have an understanding sometimes of your customer base. We're known as Fayetteville's hometown utility, and whenever you're out and about and you got anything on PWC, a t-shirt, a hat, you're going to get some public engagement. And when we're talking about rates, we like to hear from our customers to see how we can make things better. And targeted outreach. Things sometimes can't just be you sending out the whole net. Sometimes you have to target specific accounts, specific customers in order to reach your goal of communicating the message. That's my portion. I appreciate you guys listening. Please let me know if you have any questions I can answer.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lamont. It's incredible to see all that you've accomplished at PWC, and I know that what you shared is going to help a lot of folks today. I'm going to launch one final poll question before we jump into Q&A. That question is your utility planning to introduce new dynamic rate plans to customers? Your options are, you already have, you're planning to roll them out this year, you're planning to roll them out next year, or you're planning to roll them out 2+ years from now. You don't have a timeline, but you're planning on introducing them, or you don't know, or you don't have plans as of now. So go ahead, choose where your utility is currently at when it comes to introducing rate plans. I know that there's a lot of great questions coming in, so keep those coming. And the results are slowing down, so let's go ahead, close that poll out. And now we can go ahead and jump right into Q&A. I know that's the part that everybody's been waiting for. Awesome. I'll bring Liz and Lamont on screen with me. Great. So I see some questions coming in. I'd like to kick off our Q&A, though, with a question for Liz. Liz, you talked a lot about incentives and the different strategies, but I was wondering, have you seen any utilities successfully use incentives to get customers enrolled?
Yeah, actually I have. Client of ours, a large IOU, they were trying to push a voluntary rate out, and they didn't start with incentives, but they were almost there, and they made it over the hump by offering some bill credits. So they did successfully meet their goal that year. So kudos to them. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Lamont, I have a question in here from Adrian. It says, did you have any pushback from the solar industry on the solar rates?
Pushback, I don't know about pushback, but there are some local companies that are, I guess we'll say, working against us. They're trying to make it seem like they're working in tandem with us, but they're actually not. And they're putting out false information. So it's kind of like having to make sure we let the customers know that what we're offering isn't the same as some of the actual dealers in town. And that takes an education process, as well as just explaining the specifics of what we have going on versus what someone else has going on. I wouldn't say it's a pushback, but more of like they can be a little bit of a nuisance because they're putting competitive information out there.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you so much. All right, next question here, Lamont. How did your customers react when you started rolling out these rate plan options? And in return, how did you respond to any of the reactions, whether they were negative or positive?
Well, I would say with time of use, a lot of customers seem to kind of lean in. They really wanted to get more information about it. It's something that it was a mandatory change. So with something like that that's going to happen, and we're presenting it to customers as a benefit, ways that they can save by making some adjustments. So I think they leaned in, wanted to really grasp the concept, get the hours down, make sure that they knew the time periods month wise, and just kind of really wanted to listen all in. And by doing that, you continue to educate and show the benefits to customers. So it's kind of like uh, we had their attention, and with us knowing we had their attention, we wanted to be efficient and continue to put the message out effectively.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. Liz, another question for you. When talking about the factors that drive enrollment, you mentioned, saving money, the environment, control with the energy usage. But would you say that any one of those factors is more important than the others?
From what we've seen, saving money and customers being able to be in control of their energy use are most likely to hit home. So kind of leading with those types of messages, especially in the current state of, inflation and the rising costs everywhere. So anytime we can, preach the message to save money, it's huge for that communication to go out. And then we also know that customers, they don't like not knowing what their energy usage is or how to handle it. So giving them the option to feel like they're in control is pretty powerful for them. So I would say those two for sure.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Lamont, another question here for you. What steps are you taking to educate customers about how solar works? How do you track it?
So within our marketing and development team, we're helping and we're working with the group called Sustainable Sandhills here locally to put together like a Fayetteville EV club and keeping that information together of knowing who the EV owners are, those who are interested in trying to get rooftop solar, because even with our community solar program, that's subscription based and we already have the solar panels in a solar farm. Well, we did have customers who wanted to go a little bit further and actually have the panels at their home. You continue to get those questions. So I guess they went to work, found some ways that we could develop some programs, and we kick it back to those who are already interested. So we go back through Sustainable Sandhills. We still continue to work with the group or the customers that we knew already had an interest with this, reaching back out to them and letting them know what's available. Some of them were doing some things independently. And even though we are the majority energy provider for Fayetteville and Cumberland County, there are some competing utilities. We have a Lumbee, Duke Energy is also available, and some of them are offering programs as well. So it is explaining that how our program may differ from another utility company's solar program, and continuing to just follow up. We have a spreadsheet of customers. Now, that's not our area necessarily, but with that spreadsheet, it keeps track of who the customers are, and we work with our marketing team to find ways or times to communicate to them and what we should be communicating to them.
Awesome. Partnerships are really important. I love that you partner with those in the community. Yep. Awesome. This next question I'm going to put out to both of you. So, Liz, if you want to start, and then Lamont jump in. But there's so much to communicate to customers about rate plans. How do you share the information with them, but without overwhelming them?
Yeah, that's the trick. I would say it's important to take it step by step, piece by piece. To your point, you can't communicate everything at once because you're going to risk overwhelming, your customer base, and they'll probably tune out and ignore, further messages about the topic. So you really want to take a step back and first explain, why your customers should care about the rate plans. And then you move to, in your next message, how rate plans can help them. Once they've got that kind of down, I would say you want to maybe introduce the rate calculator if you have one and let them play around with that to see how their bill would change. So yeah, basically just separating out the information so that they're getting them in different nuggets. But I always want to iterate that, not everybody's in tune at every step of the way. So maybe reiterating a message a couple of times just before you move on to, the next sequence would be my tip for sure.
Awesome. Thanks. Lamont,
Yeah.
anything to add?
I was going to piggyback on that. Yeah, keep it simple. Try to keep it as simple as possible. We try to break down those journalistic W's, so explaining what's happening, why it's happening, when it's happening, and as mentioned, the impact, how the customer could potentially benefit from it. And with us utilizing our community advisory group, so whenever we're coming up with messages or ways to communicate before we're actually rolling it out to our entire customer base, we introduce it to our community advisory group, get their feedback, see how they feel, and we make adjustments based off of that.
Perfect. Great answers, both of you. All right, this next question is kind of for both of you. Lamont, I'll have you start though. Was there any one method of communication that you found to be most successful with your customers when talking about rate plans? And then just on the opposite end, Liz, is there just one channel that you would recommend to utilities when they're trying to educate customers?
I think it was most successful or effective whenever we met with customers in person, like the community watch meetings or doing something with an HOA or community or apartment complex, excuse me, getting those real-time question and answers. A lot of times questions tend to be repetitive, so getting that information helped us develop a lot of our FAQs, as well as ideas for support resources. And then another thing with us being Fayetteville's hometown utility, that's our moniker, going out into the community and allowing customers to actually see our face, ask questions in person, overall allow them to be heard and validated, because a lot of times customers may have a gripe or something they want to express in another way, but they have come to this meeting to get the information. But I digress. Allowing them to have a voice and be heard, I think it helped us to better explain and have a healthy dialogue about rate change. Also, answering questions and being helpful to customers in those situations. A lot of times you convert them from just customers into spokespersons. So now they're out in the community telling their neighbors, family, friends that what they just learned, and they're explaining it like an expert. So it's almost like some ground gets covered before you actually get there. And I think that was the most effective way.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think from my standpoint, and I've said it a little bit earlier on in the presentation, but meeting your customers where they are in an omni-channel approach, if you can do that. But for if you're limited, I would say definitely email and social media are great starting points. If you have a larger budget, I would say mass media campaigns like TV, streaming, banner ads. So you're kind of increasing your odds to reach as many customers as you can. So yeah, that would be my tips.
Perfect. What I'm hearing from both of you is go where the customers are, person, social media, email, you just got to do all those different communication channels. So great advice. We are coming up close here, but Lamont, I want to end with this question. If you had a do-over, would you do anything differently?
That's a tough one. I think we achieved success. I think it was very beneficial the time we started. We didn't try to wait a quarter out or even 6 months getting that whole year out. So I don't want to say we did everything right, but I think we were successful, and I think things happened the way they were supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Sounds great. Love it. All right. Thank you both. Unfortunately, I have to bring the party to a close. We have run out of time today. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we will answer them offline. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Lamont, for your insights and your advice today on how to educate customers about rate plans. It was a great discussion. And thank you, audience, as well, for attending today and for your questions and joining us in the chat. As a reminder, the follow-up email will be sent to you shortly with the presentation materials and a playback link. If you, again, have any questions or feedback on today's event, please don't hesitate to contact us. There will also be a brief survey at the conclusion of the event. Please don't close out your browser because we would really appreciate your feedback. We'll be taking a short break from our webinar series, but you can expect to see us back in October. So until then, thank you again for attending, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.